Well, good afternoon everybody, good evening or good morning, depending where in the world you are. Today I have some very exciting stuff for you, because I have a little bit of it is mentioned in my book Enoch Insights, but some of it is not. And I'll start you off here with the book Enoch, in my book Enoch Insights, with some very strange verses from chapter 108. I've already done an audio on chapter 108, but it has some very odd verses in it, of which I interpreted at the time that it was, this is the verse 3, 108, Enoch, book Enoch, 108, verse 3. And I saw there something like an invisible cloud, for by reason of its depth I could not look over. And I saw a flame of fire blazing brightly, and things like shining mountains circling and sweeping to and fro. Now, cutting a long story short, I said in this chapter, this sounds a lot like UFOs. Right? And I says, this reminds me of another verse in the book of ZECHARIAH, chapter 5, verse 1. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, a flying roll. Zechariah 5:3, and he said unto me, this is the curse that goes forth over the face of the whole earth. For every one that steals shall be cut off, as on this side according to it, and every one that swears shall be cut off on that side according to it. And I said here in comment 4, these verses in Zechariah are amazing, and sound a lot like the movie Aliens and Cowboys, for those who've seen that. It's about UFOs attacking people in the cowboy days, and invading their houses and killing people and stealing stuff, especially stealing souls and that, and putting them in captivity. It's an amazing movie, that Aliens and Cowboys. I think there's a lot of truth to it, especially about aliens or evil spirits capturing human beings. In other words, UFOs in the future will become much more frequently seen, become a terrible curse to mankind in the end of days. And that's why the fallen angels who pretend to be aliens unto mankind will end up getting very severe judgment as being Satan's emissaries. They will have practically destroyed all of God's original creation, and also mankind for a second time, like before the flood, during the Great Tribulation, or the last 3.5 years of the Antichrist's 7-year covenant. Okay, now as interesting as that is, I want to bring to your attention something even more interesting. And to do that, I have to go to directly to the book of Zechariah. I read the book of Zechariah before, but perhaps you haven't noticed chapter 5. Now, I want to say about the book of Zechariah, it really is incredible. It's a short book, it's only about 10 pages long, but it contains a lot of very interesting stuff. The first chapter talks about a red horse, just like it does in chapter 6 in the book of Revelation. The second chapter talks about, and the third one talks about the branch, or the coming Christ, Messiah. The fourth chapter of Zechariah talks about the two end-time prophets in the same way that Revelation 11 does. Chapter 5, well, that's a mystery chapter that we're going to talk about, that I did talk a bit about in my book Enoch Insights. But today we're going to talk a lot more about it. Chapter 6 of Zechariah talks again about the four horsemen, exactly like in Revelation chapter 6, talks about that. Chapter 7 talks about the 70 years Israel being in captivity back in 500 BC. Chapter 8 talks about the millennium. Chapter 9 is messianic, prophecy about Jesus. Chapter 10 about the last days. Chapter 11 is also messianic. Chapter 12 about Armageddon, chapter 13 also about the end time, and chapter 14 about the end time and the end of all things. But today I'm going to take you to the 5th chapter, because I find this chapter is very mysterious, and I think there's probably few people understand it. I'll read it to you. So this is Zechariah chapter 5. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, what seest thou? I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. That's about 30 feet long by about 15 feet wide. It does sound like one of those UFOs in sound. It's flying as well. And then said he unto me, now if you've seen the movie Cowboys and Aliens, then it sounds just like that. And he said unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of, just a little place, the whole earth. That's what it says. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it. Everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. In other words, dishonest people, like the merchants who rule the planet, dishonest people, evil people, those are always cussing and swearing and not doing what they're supposed to do, not obeying God's rules and his laws of creation. Now he mentions about this curse. I'll bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and shall enter into the house of the thief, and to the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Now that is amazing. It's very short. There's only 4 verses of description. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And again, I go back here to Enoch Insights here. These verses of Zechariah are amazing. Sound a lot like the movie Alien Cowboys. In other words, UFOs in the future become much more frequently seen, become a terrible curse to mankind in the end of days. And that's why the fallen angels who pretend to be aliens will end up getting severe judgment. Yes, I did say that before, but I reiterate it because of how important it is. And look at this, verse 5, Book of Enoch 108:5. And he said unto me, this place which ye have seen, here are cast the spirits of sinners and blasphemers, and of those who work wickedness, and of those who pervert everything. And the Lord has spoken through the mouth of his prophets, even the things that shall be. It's absolutely staggering. Now, that bit I have mentioned before, but what I'm going to read to you now I haven't mentioned before. So this is taken from Zechariah chapter 5, and we read those first 4 verses, but what about the next verses? Now listen to this. Same chapter. And the angel that taught me went forth and said unto me, lift up now thine eyes and see what is this that goeth forth. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's an ephah that goeth forth. An ephah is a measurement system, a kind of strange way of measuring things. I say that because sometimes it's mentioned in the book of Revelation 11 as well. It mentions many times the book of Enoch, Revelation, here in Zechariah, about an angel having a measuring line. What is this? A measuring line to measure the city, the temple, the people therein. But how can you measure people and a temple? How can you measure a building and measure the people? So it's kind of mysterious. It's some sort of measurement system whereby it's not just measuring the size of a building, but it's measuring the worth of the people therein and things like that. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with here. The ephah, some sort of measurement system. And I said, what is it? And he said, this is the ephah that goeth forth. And he said, this is their resemblance throughout the earth. And here's where he describes things in a different way. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. And this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And this is wickedness. And he cast it in the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of the lead upon the mouth thereof. I'm not beginning to think that I understand all the meanings of this here. I understand some of it. This bit I do, that comes now. And then lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came out 2 women, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings as the wings of a stork. So you got these women here, giant women, but they got wings like a stork. That sounds like a chimera. Sounds like something from the dark side. And he just went to say in verse 8, this is wickedness. Something really bad happening in the end time. What is it doing? What does this 2 women do? They lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven. Then said I to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, to build it a house in the land of Shinar, and it should be established, set there upon her own base. Okay, I'll give you my interpretation of what I discern this means. This is talking about something very wicked that's already going on, ladies and gentlemen. What it's talking about here, ether is a measuring standard. And since Solomon, the measuring standard spiritually has been determined by Israel and Jerusalem and the temple in Jerusalem, and the standard being, of course, the Ten Commandments as given to Moses and all the law. But what it's talking about here is in the end time of these two powerful spirits, female spirits, that have, like, as it says, wings of a large bird, a stork, yeah, okay? These are spirits, that they are taking away the standard. They're taking away the ether, our measurement system. This reminds me very much of what it says in Daniel 7:25 about the Antichrist and the Antichrist system. He should think to change times and laws and seasons, and he should be given into his hand for time and times and the dividing of time. That is exactly 3.5 years, or 3.5 years of great tribulation. Now this sounds to me the same thing. They're changing the standard. Are they trying to change the goalposts? Have we seen something like that in the last 5 years? I think we have in many areas. They're very much trying to change the goalposts about what's right and wrong and bring it away from the Judeo-Christian standard. And here it's showing two spirits that are taking away the measuring standard, taking it away, and where they take it to? They lifted up the ether between the earth and heaven, something big spiritual going on, to move it from the earth. And where do they take it? Land of Shinar. What's the land of Shinar? Shinar's the land of the giants. That's where all the evil started after the flood, in the land of the giants in Shinar. That's where the Tower of Babel was. That's where the giants came back. The disembodied spirits of the giants came back and helped to build Babel, or Tower of Babel. And so it's saying here that in these last days, the whole standard on which society is built, the old Judeo-Christian foundation, is being eroded, taken away, and it's going to be replaced by something totally satanic, or something that brings absolute lawlessness, as they had at the Tower of Babel, before God changed things and made it so Satan had to behave himself and at least bring some sort of law and order in the 6 world governments that have happened so far, starting with Egypt, and then Assyria, and then Babylon, and then Medo-Persia, and then Greece, and then Rome, and the final one will be the Antichrist. But here it makes it quite clear, this is what it sounds like to me, two powerful spirits take away the standard. They take away the standard from Jerusalem. They take away the standard and they change the standard. What is the standard? Standard's been the Mosaic laws. The standard's been the Christian laws of the New Testament. Well, they're taking away it all, replacing it. Do you know what they just said? You can go on my website, www.outthebottomlesspit.co.uk, and the World Economic Forum, one of the latest things they said, Klaus Schwab, they said, we need to have a new Bible. We need to rewrite the Bible, write a Bible that's accurate and true. Of course, what they mean is to rewrite a Bible by AI that is totally without a soul and without God, without love, without feelings, without emotions, as the entities are themselves. Well, it would seem to me that in Zechariah chapter 5, it's talking about the standard being taken away. The standard, the old standard, and removing it. And why is it taking the land of Shinar? In other words, to bring things back the way they were in the times before Christianity. Then we had paganism. And the time before the Jewish laws in Israel. What was it like then? Well, every man worshipping his own idols. Just look to the case of the relatives of Abraham, before Abraham changed things and was an iconoclast, an idol smasher. Things are going backwards, as we've all witnessed. Since that COVID, we've witnessed so many things that are reverse of what they should be. Call wrong for right and right for wrong, And that's how it is, and that's the way it's going. It's going down. Well, this shows it really strongly, in my opinion, in Zechariah chapter 5. Very interesting chapter. Talking about taking away the standard and replacing it with a standard like they had just after the flood. Lawlessness. And those same spirits are indeed coming back, surfacing. I'm convinced that a lot of the people running the planet are, I don't know if you can call them human. I think they're hybrids. Some call them devils, demons, but it's all a fulfillment of Scripture, because we know that one of the next things to happen is the rise of the Antichrist. And we know that 10 horns, demonic horns, are formed according to Daniel 7. It's 10 powers that are totally demonic. I think we've seen the faces of them already. Totally under satanic control. Well, you can read about these things in the book of Zechariah also. It's a very short chapter, chapter 5. Like I said, I don't understand everything in this chapter, but I think some of the things I do understand, which I've related today. Well, thanks for listening, and you can hear more about this in my book, Enoch Insights, and I will put this whole class, like I'll put it together. There's a lot more to it than I'm saying today. There's a lot more to it, a lot of details, and the meaning of words like Ephah, and go into the detail, every detail, but I'm just giving a synopsis today of a class I'm working on. This on Zechariah chapter 5. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Have a great day.